It's January 14th. It's Friday, January 14th, 2022. That's what the outside, whatever looks like in UV light. You can see the beam coming this way in. When my eyes look outside, it is very bright, but I can still distinguish. It's not a complete whiteout. I can still see visually. I can, with my ocular vision as a humanoid, I can still make out one wall of a solid building just outside my window. I don't know if it's the Alpha, I would call it Beta, but Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta wall. I'm not sure. I heard somebody say on a TV show that that's the person in charge's call. So again, when you're disoriented in a whiteout condition, emergency situation, there's usually somebody who makes the call. So I can make out one wall, which is the back of the building, which would make sense based on where I'm sitting, through the light spectrum and the light field. But even though the camera is unable to pick up the differential for however my camera is set on the phone, I'm unclear. But it looks like it has a specific programming for light level, but it's I mean, I don't know if it's auto adjusted. It would be programmer to ask that. I don't touch it. Only thing I touch is the front face screen. Sometimes I raise it so I can see contrast better based on the lighting around me. But anyway, so on this day, 14th of January, year 2022, I went to, so it's Century 20, and it is year 22, decade 2 plus 2 years. I went to my son's school to drop him off. I noticed there's still not a flag flying of a United States of America flag, which concerns me. I saw the assistant principal. He was in a conversation with some woman. And then I handed the bags to my son, who ran off inside. We're sending in some celebration. It's his 10th birthday, so we're sending in celebration for his birthday on this Friday, the 14th, since his birthday's on the 15th. Now, in Three King format of a January birthday, my grandmother, his great-grandmother, was January 3rd, my father's January 30th, and my son is January 15th. So that solidifies the Three King representative dates in one solid month. What I don't understand is how, and I spoke of this briefly yesterday, I have a Sons of Italy Foundation calendar. They put that on there for whatever reason. My grandfather's moved supposedly from northern Italy. But this is what a January calendar for the humans looks like. I can see that here they made some reference to a new year. It's celebrated with some ball dropping. I don't know why that's such a ceremonious event. It seems pretty ridiculous that they would want to celebrate their another year of getting nothing accomplished. On the 6th, it says here Epiphania, or Epiphany. I heard the humans locally in New York speak of it as Three Kings Day. Well, actually, I heard a foreigner who came to tell me that date. I then remembered on the date miraculously, which means it's for special purpose. But but they don't have off from school on this date. It's just because this is a Sons of Italy calendar, they have it represented. So I guess it's a hybrid calendar of sorts. But then what's really upsetting is, see the 15th of January? This is January up here, 15th. My son's birthday is not represented as being celebrated nationally. But there's a false king here. Now, where this comes into question, this false king, which is certainly a false king, is the fact that in the intercontinental management and design and whatever, there is a South Hills, Dakota, or Black Hills, South Dakota state that has monumental men which have an appearance in stone, which is a privilege, and it is a monumental task bestowed upon a profile of people that are recognized. There's then a monetary system, treasury system linked in with that sense of security and that allowance of governance. So that is utmost importance. With this false king, they have in the local media him represented as something that is not on the monumental portrait and specific large symbolic gesture that was left for a very specific reason locally. Then now currently when the elections go up, it looks like I'm in a blue state, which means that the anarchists and demolition children have done a real bang-up job practicing their democracy in a republic. But it's still a republic for which we stand under the unity flag. Or so the pledge goes every time you have a class in the morning in the school system, since I was a youth. So there is some semblance of them remembering that to the republic for which we stand, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, okay, so there's a foundational whatever chant that we always said in the morning. And so now, with that, even though I'm in a blue state, there is still some responsibility between blue and red that there has to be, like, if there's too much demolition, kiddos, we need time to build back up the state and the republic, because the republic protects the public. Republic, public. There's an R-E in front of republic, because the republic watches over and has responsibility to the people and vice versa to protect one another. And if you want that democracy, if something's not working for you, right, that's a great idea, except there is a tipping point at which too much democracy, just like too much betting, too much drugs, too much sugar is going to cause a problem. It's the same thing with too much democracy causes the republic to have a problem with the public, and then it becomes like a free-for-all at, like, who done it and ran, is what it feels like. Anyway, sitting in this position in New York. So, this person that got on the calendar, I don't know how it happened. I spoke to a gentleman this morning that I don't normally see. He's one of the fathers of one of the sons, and that's been friends with my son since pre-kindergarten. I have photos of them when they were little, and now they're all in 4th grade. So I spoke to him real quick. I was asking him, I said, I'm just curious because we have this monumental signature. He says, well, actually, he says, no, he says, he heard, excuse me, is that there's a different race of alien that lives somewhere within the mountains. And that portrait on the front face was somehow a target that someone else was using. And I'm like, now that didn't make sense. I was like, you have the strongest foundational symbolic gesture carved into a mountain for a reason. That is the strongest base for an argument you will ever have with sure footing. So, if you are to stand and defend yourself and your children and the possibility of your future, and you notice something on the calendar representing a false king claim, who does one stand up and raise their hand to? I said, normally I would say to call the White House, which I have done, because I still have one family member in the White House. But the problem is that I said, I was like, let me ask you, and I asked him the question. I said, I happen to look at the world a little differently. I was like, I look at the Obama administration as a break into the family estate, and if we had private record holders and shareholders and so on and so forth of keeping certain whatever intact and protected, it looks to me like there was a break into the White House and then a squatters situation, which then is the biggest breach of security on the planet, and it was like opening the books to everything that goes bump in the night and dangerous for 8 years, and just really like scary stuff for myself at the moment and my children. I was like, and then we got Trump, thank God. It's a family member again, and then it becomes, now all of a sudden we're not holding Trump at 8 years. We now got Biden, which, great family member, but it looks like he's being held hostage by another guerrilla warfare tactic member. And now that concerns me, because again, I can see visually it's not a family member. It's not part of the original architecture, phenotype, or structure of the United States of North America. I don't know what our upstairs neighbors have to say and providential things. I don't know how they run their protection unit and the joint lovey-dovey between the upstairs neighbors and the lower, what feels like under attack kids, but I don't want to like upset anybody. So now that's the whatever. I was like, so I'm a little confused. It looks like our communications were knocked out. Now I got one of my family members in the White House trying to take the office back, but then he's got some secret operation going on with some foreign body that doesn't look like she belongs in the family nest, because it looks like more of opening the books. And how do you keep anything nationally safe and secure for stability purposes at Red and Blue and the Republic and some investors and family members elsewhere that have secured positions? How do you keep that safe when you have a representative of a non-familial whatever that looks like the false king that's on some calendar, that somebody's having a hard time? And then I even said, I'm like, my son, I was like, his birthday is actually the 15th. I was like, but somehow on the calendar they have a non-presidential, I don't know if this is an appointment. It's on the schedule, it's on the calendar, and people get off the school for it. So I'm a little confused how that happened, because again, it's not representative of our treasury, our security, what the White House is supposed to look like, and what the Black Hills in in unity looks like for the intercontinent design and infrastructure and architecture. So, how did we get a false king on the calendar, and why is everybody celebrating it? And how do you remove it off of our calendar system? Because I think that it is sending the wrong message in a big symbolic way to I don't know whom. But it's one of those scary operations. I was like, and then, um, let's think about this. And then I ran into another gentleman who's I never see in the morning, but I saw him. His back was to me, so I walked up, and I know he doesn't have children, so I wanted to mention to him and ask if he knew that I saw the flagpole, which is kind of hidden behind the scaffolding, but before the black shrouded school. I asked if he had kids there. He said no. I said, all right, now here's, I do. I was like, in fact, it's actually my son's birthday. They're celebrating today. I was like, but anyway, the flag, the United States of America flag, I thought was always supposed to fly at U.S. post offices and schools. I was like, but I'm looking and I don't see. Now, he said he worked in the school system, some boiler room, and he was in charge of putting a flag up. I said, no, see, now I know there's I don't know what they are. I just somehow know that something's off and wrong, but I don't know where to report it. And he says, report it 311. I go, but here's the thing. When I call 311, the phones are answered by something that doesn't really seem to care. I was like, I don't know how it's being reported from that, whatever. I was like, it just seems like there's a lot of whatever. I was like, and I don't really, I mean, again, then he was mentioning some things, and I'm like, now I don't have inside information, because I don't, I'm not following, because he was speaking English, but again, just like if you know how to be a sportscaster at football level or basketball announcer level, they speak English, but a different fluidity. They're differently affluent in their knowledge and human intellect than I am. They're enlightened in a different way, and speaking to them about their craft is very difficult because there's not always a common ground. Like, sometimes you have to ask the person to slow down. Like, I know I've lived in English my entire life. That's all I've ever heard. But sometimes the word patterns that they use to construct this alternate reality and this craft that they love so much in some sports book, it does not come naturally to everybody. Sometimes it takes work to have to sit down and be like, I'm going to need the pitch, but I'm going to need you to slope it this way or this way, like, or you need to slow it down just a little bit, because I have to digest this personally, because I've never heard it before. I've never taken an interest into it before, but now it seems to be pertinent and imperative. So, anyway, so the gentleman was speaking to me about something that he had heard, or and I guess I would call it rumorville personally, but that's how the humans communicate. So they are important at some point, these rumors, but I don't know how much validity and how much vetting there is inside the process before it comes out and then gets disseminated. So I was keen-eared, careful on my contribution, and ever vigilant of asking just questions for them to think on their own in a philosophical, theological way of sorts, so I don't trip myself up or potentially harm myself. But if I don't share with one other possible familial member, I mean, they're familial in the sense that they could be in the same genealogical category as myself. I just, again, I don't know how and where to build trust of the human species because I've been hurt a lot by them in many different looks and whatever. So it's a little difficult to figure out this where to intervene or how much is too much or whatever. I don't ask those questions at the moment. I'm just trying to keep to less is more, but high impact words in a word pattern that categorically makes the most amount of logic sense for the great beyond or some form of partnership with the great beyond at some point. So he had mentioned something about something with an aircraft and dropping people off in the middle of the night, trying to turn red states blue. I'm like, that's a scary thought. Like, if that becomes a reality, that is a really scary thought. So, again, I don't know if there's a second break-in to the White House, which is what it looks like every time they get up to have a conversation in front of the camera. I mean, it's a breach of security every day that this is, I mean, visually going on. So I don't know. Then Kevin was very nice to mention to me. He said he's into sports. I said, "Oh, you are?" He said that Arizona was the last state to put on the calendar this false king, and I was like, "Yeah," and he said, "Yeah," but again, there was but again, limited knowledge on my part, and I'm like, oh, so it wasn't always on the calendar? And he's like, no. Because, I mean, I don't know how it got on. And then he said something about football was like, almost like pushing up on little brother or big brother kind of a thing. Like, they're going to withhold a Super Bowl. So they're like, oh, we'll put it on the calendar. We don't want to lose our billions of dollars of advertising or whatever and Super Bowl money. So I mean, I don't even want to go down that path of logic. It's pathological, but it is a dangerous path to even begin upon. So that happened. So I'm like, so how do we get it off? I was like, because I don't do sports. I haven't enjoyed sports. I'm not rich. And I've been harmed more than I can even begin to speak on. So how do I stand up for my sons and myself and say, no, not in my republic. Not in my, what, you've had too much demolition in my republic, and there needs to be someone that holds somebody accountable because this is dangerous. These are dangerous business ventures that are not being spoken of in the correct manner, and I don't know why. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It is Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. Oh, and on that note, when I came in, I took a little longer getting home because I spoke to both the gentlemen in the local neighborhood. And Lynn, yesterday was concerned that I was taking too long getting home, which I was like, wow, you even noticed. But she said Drew Barrymore, she's been doing this big thing about Scream all week, another movie franchise I haven't seen. But she's using words that I'm trying to, in my whatever. She said that she held up a copy of the Bayside Times on her show, which has a studio in New York. I don't know what for what purpose, but she knows about this urban legend real place that has a publication of some sort. So, I don't know what to do about that. but she did mention it on her TV show. I think she's about my age. So, but she's one of the children that had show business in her. I mean, they say show business is in your blood, but she was able to find a door, an opportunity, and theatrical placement in her actor career. I have not been so privileged or so blessed in my own. I don't know how Tish comes into that. That's a new word I just found out the humans around here use. I don't know if it's a local New York word. But again, it's January 14th, 2022, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.